Hello, Damien here from Cloud Technology Experts. In the first part of this video, we deployed our Educate website using Flux CD. In the second part of this video, we're going to do continuous integration and continuous deployment with Flux CD. We're going to do this along with GitHub Actions. So if you come here to the project page, you'll see all of it documented here. But this is what the workflow looks like. So we're going to clone our repository, and then anytime we make changes to the application, we need to push the changes to GitHub repository. Once we push the changes, GitHub Actions will kick in, and it will use the Docker file that we have in our repository to build the Docker image. GitHub Action will also push the image to Docker Hub, and then we will make some changes to our deployment file. To make those changes, we're going to use a Flux policy called image update automation. Once those changes have been made to the deployment file, Flux will try to reconcile GitHub on the laptop. So once that reconciliation has been done, we will see that our new application will get deployed onto the cluster. So let me show you where we stopped in the previous video. So if I come here and I do kubectl get nodes -o wide, we see that I have a cluster of 2 nodes. And if I do flux get customizations, I see that my deployment is here, and this one is the Flux system namespace. And if I do kubectl get, I see my deployment there, and if I get my service, I see my service deployed right here. So again, this is using node port. So if I want to test if this application is working as suspected, I have to go to my AWS cloud, copy the IP address of one of these nodes here, and see if this website comes up. So to do that, since this cluster was deployed on AWS, I need to come down here and scroll to my AWS Management Console. And if I want to use my node, I can come here and copy the IP address of this node, come here to my web browser, paste it here, and go to port 3004, and there you go. Now I have the application that was deployed in the previous video. Okay, so now that we have done part 1 of this video, in the second part, like I said, we're going to do continuous integration and continuous delivery. So to do that, let's go back here to my website, and all the information is documented here for you. So the major actions we're going to do are 2. In GitHub, we're going to create GitHub action, and in Flux, we're going to create 3 policies. One is called the image policy, then we have the image registry policy, and we have image update automation policy. These 3 policies, we're going to push them to the Flux Educate repository where Flux is running. And then after that, we'll see that our policy will be in effect, and we can start doing what we'd like to do. So part 1 is GitHub action. For this part of the exercise, there are things we need to take care of first of all. So look at the scenario this way. We are here on GitHub. GitHub action, we need to build the Docker image, then push the image to Docker Hub. So GitHub has to log on to Docker Hub. For that to happen, we need to go to Docker Hub and create a key to be used for logging on by GitHub action. And then inside the GitHub action, we need to make sure that we specify those credentials in forms of secrets. So what we're going to do is that First, we'll go to Docker Hub, and then we'll create an access token. Then we come to GitHub and then create some secrets. After that, we will now push the file to perform GitHub actions. So for most of these steps, I've done them already, but I can show you how to do them. For example, here, all the steps are documented here. So if I come here to Docker Hub, so here you log on to your account. Once you log on to Docker Hub, log on to your account, click here, and then go to account settings. In the account settings, come here to security, and then here you click on new access token. Then give it a name here. I can say test token, and after that I can say generate. So once I say generate, I need to make sure I copy this key because that is the key that I need to put in GitHub. So I'll copy that key. For example, say copy and close. Then after that, I'll come here to GitHub, and I'll come here to the repository, which is educate GitOps, and I'll come here to settings, and I'll come here to secrets, actions, new repository secret. But you see, I already created this one here, Docker Hub token and Docker Hub username. So if I want to show you how to do it, click on that, then put your, for example, Docker Hub username, and here I can put IBDO. Then I can say add secret. But again, I already have that one. Again, I can do Docker Hub token, and I can come here and paste the token that I just copied and say add secret. So by the time you perform these two operations, you have these variables here that are going to be used by GitHub to log on to Docker Hub. Okay, so those are covered here and here. Pretty much everything I just did are all covered here. By the time you finish, you have those secrets set. Okay, so for the GitHub action, you don't have to be an expert on GitHub action. Just come here to this page, and they provide for you here a file that you can use out of the box. This file, just copy and use it the way it is, it will work. Though the one I use, I made a little changes, and that is the one I'm going to use. But you can see where the secret username and Docker Hub token are used here. Pretty much all those variables are set here. So if you want to use this, you don't have to make any changes. Just copy and paste and use that as your workflow file. So coming back here, this is the workflow file I'm going to use. Again, I don't want to talk more about this file, but you can come here and read about it. You can come here and read about it. All of the everything about that file is all contained in this environment here. So let me show you that file. If I come here to my repository and I click here, .github workflows, that is the file that I have here. I just copy that file and make sure that some changes reflect what I'm doing. For example, I put main as my main repository, and I don't change anything here except to come here and specify where the file is. Then I am except to come here and specify the name of my image. So I put that name of the image here. That's all I have to do. Then also this variable here is very important to make it to do what I want to make it to do. So that is the file that will perform my GitHub actions. That is, this file is going to build a Docker image and it will tag it and push it to the repository, push it to Docker Hub repository. Okay, so that's the first major part. The second part is now to create our policies. Again, we need to create image policy, image registry policy, and image update automation policy. Those are the three policies that will implement our continuous delivery. And each one of them, as you can see here, is represented as a Kubernetes object. We have here the image repository, Here, we're basically specifying our image. The image I'm going to be using is my username igbedo/educate. That image is right here on Docker Hub. So here I'm on my Docker Hub. If I come here to my repositories, this is the image that I'm using. And you can see there are so many tags for this image. So the way this is going to work is that the latest tag will always be pushed to the top, so that when I'm trying to select the next most current image, it will be picked from the top of this list here. Okay, so that is about the image repository, telling the system the image that I'm going to be using. And here is the image policy that is going to specify how the image is going to be tagged. That is, anytime the image gets created, we need to tag it. And this is the pattern we're going to use in tagging it. And this is where we're going to make sure that we order all the images in ascending order, so we can pick the latest one from the top, just like I said earlier. So each one of these, as you can see, is a Kubernetes object, and those files are the ones I used. So basically, I'm just going to copy and paste those files. So once we create them, we will be able to check our image policies. For example, I can come here and I can do that. And currently, I do not have any image policy with that name, or I call it educate policy, and there is no policy with that name at the moment. Once we create it, then we should be able to come to that. Okay, so I just showed you the two of them: image repository, image policy. The third one is image update automation policy. This is the one that is going to make some changes to our deployment file. And once those changes have been implemented, we'll see that Flux CD will kick off the continuous delivery process. So again, that's the image. That's the kind image automation process. The metadata information as usual. The spec goes all the way here. We're trying to enter the repository where we're getting this information from. Here I can put some information about myself, but I leave them as default. And we have here also where we're going to push the image to, and we tell it the path where it's going to make changes to our files. So this repository here, customize, is the one here. That is the one here. We're basically saying that image automation policy needs to come here. Once it comes here, it's going to make some changes to this file. And how it knows that it needs to make changes is based on what we added here: image policy, Flux system, educate, GitOps. So we're saying that we're going to use this image policy, which is going to be in this Flux system, and that will be the name of the policy that we're using. So basically, you see how this happens. As soon as this image gets compiled and sent to Docker registry, the main latest image is going to add it here. So this will keep changing from time to time as there's a current version of the image. And that is how the system knows that it needs to initiate a new continuous delivery process. We also made the same changes here. If you come here to this section, just put that tag in there and put this tag here. Here, they are just separated into two. We have the name and we have the tag on this line here. So those are the changes we need to make. Well, basically, we will have this policy here, and then after that, the policy will come here, make the changes for us. Normally, this is how the file will look before we make the changes, but after we make the changes, it will look like this, as I just showed you on the repository itself. Okay, so pretty much that's what we have to do. Publish those policies to Flux educate repository, then make changes to our customization.yaml and deployment.yaml file, and then after that, we can now try the system. That's all we have to do. All right, so now the next section is to come here to my environment. and I'm going to copy those policies here. I already have those policies in my home directory, so I'm going to do okay, let me move that. Okay, so now we have the three files here: image policy, image repository, and then the image update automation right here. So those are the three files we have here based on what I showed you earlier. So now that we have these policy files here, we have the option to either push it to the repository or to create the objects here. Let me create the objects right here. kubectl create -f flux policies, and it's saying that those objects already exist. That's because I created them before. I have the option to delete them and create them again. So I can say delete. Okay, and I can create them again just to show you. And all of them are back in place. So let's check. kubectl get image policy -f namespace flux system. And we have the image policy there. Then let's change it to image register, image repository, and we have it there. And of course also the image automation update. Let's see that in place, and is there. So our three policies are currently in place. With that, we're actually almost at the end of this. So let's check our deployment. Our deployment is running here for 78 minutes at the moment. We can check our deploy object, and all of them are good. So ordinarily, after you make these changes, after you create these objects, you want to make sure that your files here under customize, like this one here, has the necessary tags. This is the tag that is telling image automation update to come here and make the change. It's saying any place you see this tag, just go ahead and make the change with the latest version of the image. And I also may have those tags here in customization. I have them here under new name and new tag. Basically, this is the name, that is the image we're using, and that is going to be the current version or the current tag for this Docker image. All right, so everything seems in place at the moment. All we can do now is to try our CI/CD operation. To do that, I just need to come here, and I'm going to change to my application repository. Let me clear the screen. And the actual application is stored under educate. So I'm going to make changes to educate. Let me make changes to the index. Okay, basically I want to change this home. So let me go there and make the search. Okay, so you see where it says learn from home? I'm going to say learn from anywhere. And I make it all caps letters. So I'm going to change it. So that is a change now. So if I say git status, I see that this file has changed. Let's add it, git add, and educate index, git add, and check the status again, and it says that we have added that. So let's do commit, git commit minus message, adding Okay, and let's push it. Git push origin main. And it's complaining that the version we have on our repository is more current than what we have in our laptop. So it's not going to be able to push it. To solve that, I'm going to say git fetch origin. Okay, very good. And after that, I have to reset it as well. And I'm going to reset it to here. Okay, so everything seems fine, but now I need to make the changes again to be able to push it. So okay, so where it says from home, I'm going to say from anywhere. And then if I say git status, it will give me that. If I say git add educate index, it gives me that. If I say git commit, and then if I say git push it to main. Very good. So it's been pushed. So let's come here and check our GitHub action. We have to click here on actions, and we see that our GitHub action is taking place now. So here GitHub action is trying to create the image, and after that we'll come here to Docker Hub and check that our image had been pushed. The last image was pushed some hour ago. So once it's done, we're going to see the current image will get pushed. So, but for that to happen, GitHub action has to complete, and then we come here and check. So let's wait for that to happen. Still building the Docker image. After that, it will tag it and push it. So it's done. So if we come here to Docker Hub and refresh, we should see that a few seconds ago, this was pushed. Okay, very good. So now let's go ahead and see that our okay, so this is 85 minutes ago. Very soon we're going to see our new deployment kick in. Very good. So you see a new deployment is coming up and is terminating, and I have both of them. 7 seconds, 9 seconds as against 85 minutes and 85 minutes. So very good. You see we have been able to achieve our objective. By making changes to our file, we push it to the Git repository. Then after that, GitHub action took effect and compiled the image, build the image, send it to Docker Hub, tag the image. After that, here is the interesting part. Let's go back here to this repository. If you come here to this customize, this deployment file, you see that this image was updated. The current image at the moment ends in 21980. So if you come here and we click on this, which is the one that was pushed a few seconds ago, you see that this image ends in 21980. 21980. If I come back here and check the customized file, also 21980. So this is all done by the image update automation. As soon as that image was built and pushed to Docker Hub and tagged, then it came here and made those changes. And as soon as any change happens in this file, Flux CD will try to reconcile our cluster, that is the application running, with GitHub. So you see that GitHub becomes the source of truth. Any changes made over there gets reflected in our cluster. So that is what we wanted to achieve. And now you can see that our index page is now reflecting anywhere instead of home, which was what was there before. Because Flux CD has helped us to deploy this new application to reflect the state of what we had in our Git repository. As you can see, there are so many processes involved. I made a few changes from what I did yesterday. The only change I made that was significant is that, remember at the beginning of yesterday's video, or at the beginning of the first video, I had to create a key. All right, I created a key. Let me show you that. I created these keys, and then I added this key to my repository. If you watch the video again, I came here to my repository here, or it was the other one, Flux Educate. Okay, Flux Educate, I came here to settings, then I came here to deploy keys, and I added a deploy key here. But I should add that deploy key to my account because that key is needed for both repositories. Both of them need that key. So don't add it to only one repository because then the other one will not see it. Alternatively, you could use two keys. One for this repository and the other one for the other repository. But I decided or prefer to use one key. So I deleted that key here. Then I came here to my account, come here to my settings. Then under access, I came here to SSH keys. And I did a new key, then I added it. As you can see, this one was added today because when I left it in the other place, I was getting some issues with Flux being able to clone the repository. That is the only change I had to make, but after that, everything started working smoothly. Again, one thing you could take note of, kubectl get secrets -n flux system. I have this one here, deploy to educate. That is a secret I had initially. Along the line though, I changed it. I created another secret. Both of them contain the same files. Okay, but I changed my key to this. Because I had already done the bootstrap with this key, it was having some issues. So I put the key back and then everything started working. If you're having some issues, this command is very useful. Just do flux logs -f. This will show you any problem happening. Just look through, and if there's any issue, it will report it over here. For me, everything is working at the moment, so there's just no problem with that. And then, of course, you can also say always do kubectl get, or let's say flux get customizations. And if any of this is not good, if it doesn't say ready, you're also going to have some issues. All right, so I hope you find that useful. We have been able to achieve the objective we set out at the beginning of this project, which is to implement GitOps with Flux. So basically, we set our application up and running. We deployed it with Flux CD. Then after that, we executed continuous integration and continuous delivery of our application. Thank you very much. I hope you find this useful, and I hope to see you in our other videos and projects.